Welcome to Underwire Podcast. If you're new, I'm Dominique, and if you're returning, thank you. So today I am joined with my good friend, Joanne Kennedy, and we're going to be talking about her journey with breast cancer. And please stay till the end because it is a happy ending. Little spoiler alert. We're going to be talking about her journey and her husband and her 3 beautiful daughters, how they dealt with it, how the community stepped in and supported her, and how she felt emotionally along the way. And hopefully we can give some women and men that are on cancer journeys, but especially women with breast cancer, give them some hope if they're going through a similar situation, right?
I hope so.
All right.
Yes.
Well, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So let me tell everybody that your 3 beautiful daughters, Aaliyah is 18, Chloe is 17, and Jillian is 15. And you're a very busy mom. That's how we met. Softball. Well, we met through softball, basketball, a little bit of track.
Yes.
Basketball was my favorite.
Yeah.
What was your favorite? Do you have a favorite?
Whatever they're in.
I know. I knew you were going to have some nice diplomatic answer. Okay. And you're also a teacher.
I am.
What grade?
High school, so
Okay.
10th through 12th.
And what, 10th through 12th?
It's social studies, so AP World History. And I am very fortunate that I get to basically form my own curriculum that aligns to what needs to align through the educational department. But the courses that I teach are AP World History, world religions, geography, which I think is a great skill. And it's just a very, simple skill to have just to know where things are. And cultural studies, where I get to do a little bit of fun things, more hands-on things than, let's say, a AP World History class. Where it's a lot of factual knowledge.
Right. Wow. I always say, I if you watch my other podcasts, I always say teachers and nurses, I think, are like up there with nuns. Like I have always told you this over the years. I give you so much credit for you should be earning $1 million a year. Anyway, I love teachers. So listen up, everybody, because Joanne, we're not just going to talk about her cancer journey. She has a cool story about adoption, too. So we're going to talk a little bit about that at the end. But just for to start out, let's go right to the day that probably, I'm assuming, changed your life forever. And that's the day that you discovered that you had breast cancer. So how did you even discover that you had it?
Well, it was actually a little bit of stubbornness on my part, a little bit of maybe not thinking about how to take care of yourself, because my yearly mammogram is right about Christmas time. So the next time that my appointment was supposed to be, I was going to have to take a day off of work. And, those sick days and personal days sometimes they're difficult. It's easier to be actually at school than write the lesson plan. And I have very good students, so I'm not saying that, I suspect that they would misbehave or anything like that.
It's just easier to do stuff yourself. When you're a woman, I'm always like, I would rather do it myself than explain it. You know? Yeah.
And it's not just that, you have a certain goal that you have to meet by certain time frames. So I was being a little stubborn, and I said, well, I don't want to take a sick day for that. I'll just, call back and make an appointment. So this should have been done in January of 2021. And things are very haphazard anyhow, and I don't mean like disorganized. It was just, we're still continuing in on COVID. It was difficult to get appointments, and so at that point I was like, I'll just call back. I've been having mammograms for 6 years or 5 years, and nothing's come up, so I'm good. So I was like, yeah, that'll happen. So then I got a reminder letter. And it was actually June when we went through the mammography process, the technician said, "Have you gotten the COVID vaccine?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Okay, so I just want you to know, I see some swollen lymph nodes, and some women do have a reaction to the COVID vaccine, and they do have swollen lymph nodes." And so when she was like, "Well, when did you get the vaccine?" and trying to think back to it, I gave the estimated date, and she said, "Well, you're a little far off from having the reaction, but who knows?"
Right.
But she said, "I just want you to know you're going to get a call back. I see this." And I said, "Okay." And she said, "Don't stress, like I automatically see it. I just want to warn women when I see that so that they don't, make all kinds of, things in their head and scare themselves." So I said, "Okay." So I appreciated the little
Absolutely.
heads up there.
I'm
So,
sure they're trained that way too, not to freak people out.
right,
Yeah.
right. So when I got the call back, which I was expecting, they said, "We're going to do an ultrasound. And if the ultrasound seems a little suspicious, then we're going to do biopsies." So when I went back, I think it was just a week and a half later, the ultrasound, like I am not a professional by any means, but, I've was looking at the screen and looking at the screen and thinking, that just doesn't look right, So like it was almost like I had this intuition. So when they did the biopsy, they said, "We'll have to call you with results, of course." So then at this point, it's the end of July, and my lovely middle child is, she was still playing travel softball at the time. So when I got the official diagnosis, we were actually on a softball tournament in Myrtle Beach, which, is a beautiful place. And so I got the phone call, and we were, at this wonderful place. And it's a place that my parents had summered or taken summer vacations, I'm pretty sure, since I was like 13 years old. So, we have had long history in this place. We really like it. As a matter of fact, my mom came along to this tournament with us. And
that was ironic, huh? For anyone that's listening, like, your life can change like that because you're sitting at an amazingly beautiful place that you have memories from childhood from. And you have your husband and your daughters, and you're at a softball tournament, and everything is just chugging along like we do in America. And then you get a phone call. Did it just feel like everything stopped? Like, what did you immediately feel when they...
Well, I'm going to say the first word that came to my head was not a good word.
Yeah.
It was like,
oh, yes.
And so, so after that initial, all right, well, now what, and I certainly was not going to tell my mom at the beach. I was not going to tell my kids or even my husband. Like that I felt like there are some things you just need to say in person.
Yeah, and I would have done the same thing, Joanne. I wouldn't want them to have a memory of, like, oh, remember that one softball tournament when Mom told us that she had breast cancer?
Right.
Like, you don't want that memory, so.
And that really...
but that's a lot of pressure on you, too, so you're...
It was a very lonely moment, where it is truly just you and this news, and you have to. Are
you a faithful person?
Absolutely, but I will honestly admit, at that moment, I don't think that that's what I thought of.
You didn't go immediately to God. You just
during chemo, definitely, but
well,
at that moment,
backing up to that moment, and then you get through the tournament, who was the first person you told? Was it your husband?
When I got home, yep, I told Jeremy is my husband, so I told Jeremy. And
How did he react? Because knowing both of you, you're both very like calm, level-headed, logical people, and everyone deals with news and emotions differently. And I can just see both of you going, okay, let's tackle this. Like, let's not wallow in, oh my gosh, why me? I can't believe it. Let's just, like, what do we have to do? Let's get her done.
Well, you make me sound so wonderful because
well, you are.
I did wallow, in my own self for a little bit, you know, and I did. I definitely cried by myself because I didn't want Chloe and Jillian to be upset, and I didn't want my mom to be upset. So, you had that lonely moment where you had to kind of filter it all out and filter it all through.
Process what's happening.
And I know I cried when I told Jeremy, and I think I cried every time I told somebody.
Oh, yeah,
and
I'm sure.
When
they diagnosed you, did they tell you what stage it was?
Yep. So I actually had to look this up because I kind of forgot myself. And that is one of the things I think chemotherapy really does play with your memory here. So I did, they did say it was actually stage 2 cancer, and it was grade 3. And I did have to remind myself what that all meant. So
what? I never heard the grade. What's that?
Yes. So cancer is not just stages of how big and how it has proliferated. It's also great. It's also given a grade as to, so stage 1 looks like normal cells. Stage 3 is they do not look normal, so they're abnormal.
Or is it grade 3?
And they are aggressive. Your cancer cells are aggressive. So stage 2 is somewhere in between, or grade 3. Sorry, grade 3 is somewhere in between. So I was given a stage 2 diagnosis with grade 3 cancer cells. So they're super fast and super fast growing and super aggressive.
So what was their plan of attack for you?
So pretty much this is kind of a newer therapy from what I understand. And they said, well, I mean, they were very honest and upfront, and they said, it's not great, but it is treatable. And they said at your age, it is curable. So
well, that was good to hear.
I said, that's a pretty big word.
Yes, it is.
Yep. And they said, we are, you're going to have an aggressive treatment because you are young, and our goal is not remission. Our goal is not to slow it down. Our goal is to treat it and cure it.
Oh,
so
thank God.
So that was, the procedure is chemo first, then surgery, then radiation. And I know other women who have had breast cancer, it's all different. It's all different cancers. And I didn't understand that until going through it. So there's all different types. And with that type, of course, has different treatments. So
I didn't know that either.
Some women who have breast cancer don't have to go through chemo. They just go through surgery and radiation, and then they might have some follow-up, like medicine or medication that they have to take for so many years or for a year.
Yeah.
So it really does depend.
And you know what else I didn't know about breast cancer was some is hormone related, which I just assumed all breast cancer would be hormone related, but some is not.
Right.
Yeah. Well, do you know if yours was, or
so that's the diagnosis. So there are three hormones, I guess, or variables or factors that are hormone based, and I forget what they all are. I think it's estrogen, there's something called HER2, and I am blanking on the third kind there. So those are hormone based. And the way that my radiologist explained it, he's such a cute little doctor from South Korea, and he, was
Aw.
drawing pictures, and he says, like the hormones, there's receptors, so the medication like fits in those receptors and blocks it. If your cancer is not hormone based, there is no receptor to block.
Okay.
So that's more difficult to treat because
Yes.
that's just, there's
Right.
nothing for it to block or attach to. And of course, that's the kind I had. So that's called triple negative because it's not hormone based. So the 3 things that they test for, that's hormone based. It was negative, so they call it that triple negative breast cancer.
Oh my gosh, it's complicated.
It is, but
So how long was chemo for you?
chemo was 6 months.
And how long was each treatment?
So it's the way that my treatment ran, and again, everyone's treatment is different. The way my treatment ran was for the first 3 months, it was one set of medications. And then the second 3 months was another set of medications.
Okay.
So originally, my original plan was every Friday I was supposed to have treatment. The first 2 Fridays would have been shorter, like maybe an hour and a half. And then the third Friday was going to be like 4 hours because
wow.
they give you more medication at that point. So the first 2 weeks were just supposed to be one kind. But some people don't tolerate it.
Yeah.
And of course, I didn't tolerate it. So I will say the nurses there were wonderful. They were fantastic. So, your first couple times, they do put you in the seats like right by the nursing station.
Oh,
because
good.
they say like, you might have a reaction. We want to be right there. And then once you become like a veteran chemo patient, then, you shuffle around in the treatment chairs. And so the first time, like I could just feel something funny, and I was like, oh, just give it a little bit. And then I was like, I just can't, breathe. Like I just feel weird. So once I said that, I felt like nurses came out of everywhere. Like they were just like, okay, and obviously they're professionals and very well trained. And, each one knew what to do and how to do. And so, my reaction was taken care of pretty quickly. And then, they like to try it again because if you can tolerate that medication, it is the best medication. But not everyone tolerates it. So,
gosh.
But the substitute medication is also very effective, thankfully.
And that worked for you.
That worked for me.
Or with you, yes.
Yeah. Okay. And then instead of having to go every Friday then, it was nice that I only had to go every 3 weeks.
Oh, wow. Now, I remember the answer to this, but did you work during chemo?
I did. I did.
So you were working. You were having chemo treatments. You have 3 daughters that are involved in 50,000 activities.
Yep.
How did you get through that? What support? Let's talk a little bit about the support you had. So, because that's really important. If anyone is going through this or they're looking at this diagnosis, please don't be, I don't know if ashamed is the right word, but please don't, this is not a time to be shy, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not a time to be prideful. Let people be there for you. And not only does it help you on the journey, but it helps other people to feel good that they're helping you. Mm-hmm. So I remember Jeremy, your husband, was at every chemo appointment. Mm-hmm. Now, how were the girls getting to school and back and to all of their practices and games? How was that all happening?
I feel like circumstances were extremely to our favor here. So Jeremy's work and his job allowed him, he was able to plan like, all right, these are treatment days. So he would do paperwork on those days. It is. I don't know how it was before COVID because I've only ever experienced it during and after COVID.
Yeah, that's right. So you were going through treatment during COVID, or no? No, you weren't.
It was
I can't remember.
Well, it's 2021, so it was still like COVID. Like
we were kind of like at the end of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Procedures and structures.
Okay.
And so I am almost led to believe that before COVID, people were allowed to bring a support person to go through treatment with them.
Probably.
So, after, you always had to go by yourself. So, you could have a person with you for your blood pressure and weight checks and, meeting with your oncologist, but the actual treatment itself, you had to be by yourself. So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I think, I was very lucky that he had a job that was flexible enough that he could do that. Again, very lucky that I was a teacher, and I think just school was
obviously back in session.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I just think the nature of teachers and people in education, we're very nurturing anyhow, and very mindful of people and their circumstances.
I think you're right.
Conditions that they go through.
Yeah.
And I think Aaliyah was driving. So
I remember seeing you at the basketball games during treatment. And I couldn't believe that you were working and still making it to a few games. But how sick did you get? I know it's going to be different for everyone, but if there's a woman out there listening and she's looking at starting any type of chemo treatment, I don't know. I just remember. I've heard.
I will say
really horror stories, and then I've heard stories where the people they were fine. So I've heard the spectrum.
I will say, to the best of my recollection, I didn't miss anything of the girls, and
wow.
As I say that, I am having a fleeting memory here. I think I might have missed one game of Jillian.
I think you're allowed.
Yeah, and I think it was just because I was just so tired that I just couldn't. And I said something to her, and she was like, "It's okay, it's fine."
Sure.
But other than that, I don't think I missed anything.
Oh my gosh.
And I just tried to make sure that I had enough energy to do that. So,
yeah, what would you say?
Everyone reacts differently, so
right.
I don't know.
But what would you say was your biggest hurdle to get over during treatment? Was it the fatigue?
It was going upstairs.
Oh, really?
It was a physical, it's just one flight of stairs. But you could have called it Mount Everest. It would take me so much mental, preparation. It just sounds really ridiculous.
It doesn't.
I looked at those stairs and I'd just be like, I don't know. And I knew that when I got to the top of the stairs that I would have to take a break. I would have to rest.
Wow, it drains just every cell in your body.
Yeah. And so getting ready for work took a little bit longer. You would think this is time to, get your rest and sleep. No, I had to get up earlier because it just took me longer to get ready. And I would know that. So.
Did you ever get up for work one day and be like, listen, self, it wouldn't be a big deal if I took some time off. I have freaking breast cancer. But what made you say, nope? You had to have something that did you just... I don't know. Did you want to stay in your routine for any particular type of reason?
I don't know. I just I felt like, well, what else am I going to do? If
you were home, quote unquote, resting, maybe your mind would really start going into overdrive.
What would I be doing? I'd probably be sitting on the couch thinking I should probably go upstairs and lay in bed.
Yeah.
But those stairs are really big. And I just think the stimulation of working and knowing that, you still had to meet deadlines. Like, you still had to grade, you still had to put in marking period grades, you still had to converse with kids.
Speaking of the kids, how were the kids and the teachers in the school district? How were they in their support for you throughout this?
My district was wonderful. So the first call I had to make, of course, was to my principal to say, I'm going to miss every Friday
Yeah.
from now to January. And I don't know if it's lucky that I, was allergic to the medication, that it turned into every third week. So I was only missing every third Friday. But he was very kind. My assistant principal was very kind. It is, like I said, I'm getting a little choked up here.
I know.
I did say,
I invested in a box of tissues.
I think as a teacher, you are, I always try to be professional. Like, it's fun to share your stories about your family, teenage kids. It's nice to relate to them, having teenage kids, in your home, and say, yep, we're all the same, yep. We parents, we're all the same. You kids, you're all the same. It's a nice way to understand each other. But, there's still that professionalism, that wall, these are students that we have to educate, and you're the teacher, you're the professional. So when you're going through something personal and you have to put that out there, that was very hard for me. And to go through the physical changes in front of them. So out of everything, the hardest thing was losing my hair. And I know it's just hair. I know it,
Girl, it's not just hair. No.
But
every woman understands.
And that was probably the hardest emotional thing, was the loss of hair. So I'm always a person that likes to know and likes to be able to prepare for things. Mm-hmm. So I felt like, my students should have the opportunity to know that this was coming forward. So, the students were great. The faculty and staff were wonderful. I do work at South Williamsport, so when I told my students, the cheerleaders there were especially supportive. Their annual pink out was dedicated to me, which, I always like to blend into the, crowd.
I know
a
you do.
Bit,
I know you do. So can I just interject and let everyone know that one of, I think, the hardest lessons in life is to learn, is to accept love and accept the spotlight being on us, because a lot of us do like to just fit in and no attention on us. And not only that, but to be humble enough to accept that love, that's hard. And I didn't realize till I was older really, and really got into studying the Bible, how it's not, you're not supposed to be prideful. And I'm still guilty of this. Like, we're both strong women, and I'm just like, nope, I'm going to do it on my own, and nobody's going to know what I'm doing, and I'm going to show. But to be vulnerable, I think, takes more courage than it does to be prideful. And I just want to commend you on that, because you were always so gracious anyway. You're just like, you just have this light around you. Like, you are like, I love you. Because I'm like so blah, and you're so like, So you're always so gracious with my big mouth at basketball games. But I kept saying that to myself as I watched you go through this journey, because a lot of people would come up to you at games, And what are you supposed to do? They'd be like, "Oh, how are you feeling? How are you feeling?" Probably 50,000 times a day. How you feeling? How you feeling? You know, you look great. Like, okay. And that's even exhausting, you know, in addition to the physical stuff. So what I'm trying to say is you were so gracious with everyone. And I just wanted to acknowledge you for that.
Well, thank you. But I also think when people ask you, they're not doing it out of malice.
Oh,
you
no,
know?
no.
Right. I feel like if they take the time
it's out of love
to come up to someone and say, "How are you doing?" and knowing that you're going through this, because it is a very public thing that you go through. Very, you know, when you wear the scarf, people know.
Yeah. And even though you know it's coming from love, it's like your children. Yeah. Like I used to look at kindergarten teachers and I used to think, dear God in heaven, that poor woman has 25 or 30 little bodies pulling at her all day. Then she goes home and takes care of her own kids. And even though you love them, it still is exhausting. Yeah.
Well, and I just think like people were asking out of the goodness of their heart. So, you know, if they didn't care, then they wouldn't ask. Right. They would just, you know, be polite and civil and say hi, and then, you know, move on, like we've all done, you know. Yeah. And sometimes I know that it was awkward for them, and you know, it wasn't awkward for me because you're like, I gotta deal with it every day. I'm used to it. But so I did appreciate, like I know that there's a couple takes to that, but I did appreciate that people were willing to ask and verbalize that they cared.
And it helps so much that both of your employers, you and Jeremy's, were supportive. I'm sure that took a lot of pressure off of you. So I'm praying that anybody else listening to this, if they're going through it, I really hope they have a community and employers that are supportive, because I think that takes a lot of pressure off. And also, you know, getting back to the just let people do things for you. Like you can be Superwoman again when it's over, but just focus on you. Focus on you and your kids, and nothing else matters. Nothing else matters.
Right.
Did anyone close to you, whether it be Jeremy, your parents, his parents, did anyone have a really hard time with it, or any of your girls, or did everybody pretty much just jump on the train and be like, okay, let's fight this, we got this? Like, is there one person that stood out that maybe really had a hard time with it?
I'm not quite sure.
Okay, maybe they did privately. Because I have to imagine it's hard for you to be there for others as well, because you're the one going through it.
I just think, well, I was surprised too, and I think everyone was surprised. But in the house, in our home, my kids saw me just, you know, like literally just sit on the couch.
Yeah, of course.
And I'd be like, no, I can't. I'm done. I can't do that, you know.
Right.
And so as much as I could, I did try to keep the normalcy.
Right.
But, you know.
Did you have any resources? Like, when you're diagnosed with something like that, do they say, here's some name of some therapist or counseling to help you get through it, or faith-based organizations? Like, was that offered to you, or?
I don't remember that being offered to me, but, you know, we do attend church, and our church community was wonderful.
Oh,
too.
good.
So, I mean, really from all over, I just felt like the support was there. So, not just our employers. In my case, you know, it came from the top down, from our superintendent to the school board.
Oh, wow.
Student clubs and organizations. So like the South Williamsport Student Leo Club, the Minithon, even though Minithon focuses on childhood cancer.
Oh, wow.
You know, they can recognize, when anyone is going through that. So,
well, that's good. So
and
even go ahead.
even just our friends,
Yeah.
like not part of any organization. Or,
Yeah.
I think the hardest job as an adult is what's for dinner. Like every day, what's for dinner?
I hate that question anymore. Like when the girls went to college, I'm like, peace out.
Yeah.
I'm done cooking.
Cereal.
Kitchen's closed.
Help yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. But
I can just imagine. Oh.
I just think that, it's like laundry and
Oh,
dishes.
I
Like it's just
know.
never ending. But our friends were wonderful with dropping off food and, like.
And I think it's a good point to make too about that is like, like if you're helping someone, they had a long day and their treatment and everything they're going through. So like just shoot a quick text. This is my advice, not yours, but I would, this is me. Shoot a quick text. Hey, I'm putting something on your front porch. See ya. Hey, I hope you're feeling good. That way there's also no pressure from you to like have to talk or entertain. Right. I think that would be so nice to just open your front door and be like, oh, something's there.
Yeah.
So that's just a little side
note. That has happened.
Yeah.
Quite a bit to us. And that was, it was wonderful. It really was.
Well, the importance of community and family and like we have to be vulnerable enough to let people know what's going on with us. And we also have to allow people to help us and love us. And then on the flip side of that, as a community, if you hear about something or see something, you don't have to make a big deal out of it. Make a pot, put it on their porch, and shoot them a text. It's the little things like that.
Yeah,
is what I'm hearing from you. So after your chemo treatment, how long then was between your last chemo treatment and then your surgery?
So I think they said, so my surgery was right about mid-March, and they said, we like your body to have a little time to strengthen and recover after chemo before the surgery.
Sure.
And then after the surgery, they say the same thing. We like your body to have some time to recover before radiation starts.
Are you comfortable enough sharing what surgery you had done?
So I just had I was very fortunate. I just had a lumpectomy. Okay. And my understanding from that is the surgery is, like a let's see what happens kind of thing. So I was told when they go in for the surgical procedure, they will remove the tumor and, whatever they think needs removed. But they will remove at least 3 lymph nodes, and they automatically test them to see if there's cancer cells in there. And if there is cancer cells present, they'll keep taking up to a certain number, because after that, you're really in danger for like lymphedema, and they don't want to cause, more things. So they said, they'll take up to a certain number. And as, after they see like there's no cancer in so many, then they say the surgery's over. So I was very fortunate. They said they would take 3. They tested the 3, and they said there was no cancer in them.
Oh, good.
So, the wording that they used was a complete pathological response. So I responded very well to chemo.
Good.
It shrunk everything to nothing.
Good.
So they had minimal to remove.
So what is the radiation for then?
The radiation is, I think, preventative.
Okay.
Like whatever they didn't get in the surgery, they try to make sure that they get it through radiation.
Oh, gosh. So beginning to end, your journey through treatment, chemo, surgery, radiation was about how long?
A little over a year. My first chemo treatment was end of August, and so after chemo, so one of the new protocols is immunotherapy. So
that's right.
So I was told, I think in 2020 they had a new recommendation for breast cancer that you continue on immunotherapy for so long.
I'm so glad we're addressing the immune system finally.
Yeah. And so that was an additional, from February to September.
Oh, good.
Was just immunotherapy, just to.
Was it injections?
Yes.
Okay.
So if your body can tolerate it, you do get a medical port put into your chest.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah. And so if you're a candidate for immunotherapy, they just keep that port in and deliver the medication that way. So
wow. I'm so glad to hear that. Okay, so what would you say is the first point that you felt like, I feel like a human again? Like, I feel like I'm coming back to life.
I don't know. I feel like I felt pretty good when I started radiation. I felt like my energy was coming back. Good. My appetite was coming back.
Good.
So going into radiation, I felt pretty good. I was still tired, and I still like to take a nap after radiation. But
listen, women, we love our sleep. I don't care.
But yeah, and of course, I would say the start of this year was the start of this past school year was pretty normal. I felt pretty normal. Good. Back to
and the important question: how long did it take for your hair to start growing back?
Well, it did. It did take. I felt like it took forever, and so around Mother's Day of 2022, I felt like I had enough fuzz that maybe I could take it off, but it was really, really short. Aww. And I thought,
you could take the wig off.
Yeah, well, the wig was, I had given up on the wig a little bit. Oh,
did you?
it was just getting so hot and itchy. Yeah. It was getting itchy, and I was like, I don't know what's more torturous,
Right.
Like,
yeah.
having hair or not having hair. So I wore the wig for a little bit, and just kind of like, I found it humorous. I don't know that, everyone has a sense of humor, but
you have to laugh.
I do remember when I was wearing the wig, we were still in a time at school, and I believe in many workplaces where you still had to wear a mask.
Mm-hmm.
So this was before, the stairs became Mount Everest to me, and I could still go up and down stairs pretty easily. And I just remember having the feeling, and why I didn't stop to fix it, I don't know, but I just kept on going. But I call it the perfect storm. So my wig was coming down over my eyes, my mask was moving up over my eyes, and everything just kind of converged. And I went to take that first step and totally missed.
Oh no, did you face plant?
I didn't face plant, but I did tumble forward, and I did fall, and I just said, I said, well, I guess I'll just fix my wig and fix my mask and keep on going up those steps. And
that's so funny.
I just it just made me laugh, and I just found humor in it. And so
and don't you feel that's important? You have to laugh at yourself. Yeah, so we're back. Sorry, technical difficulties. One man band here, but I love that story because isn't it important to have a sense of humor? I know you have your alone times, and it's a roller coaster, and it's very emotional, but to be able, another important life lesson, to be able to laugh at ourselves is so important because, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I always say, take what you do seriously, but don't take yourself seriously. Mm. Really, you can't. But, yeah, I wish I would have paid to have seen your mask up here and your wig down here, and you're just like, la la la, I don't care.
Yeah. And like I said, I don't know why I didn't just pause and fix it, because I knew
I think you were focused. Were you focused on getting up the stairs? Maybe
I don't know. I was just like, what just happened?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So all right. So we're through treatment, and you're feeling better. No more wigs, thank God. What would you say? Do you have any more advice than you've already given us? But if you had to think of one thing or the most important thing that helped you through your journey, what would you say it is?
Well, I think there's a couple things, and that is what you were saying. Be willing to accept help. I do think people don't offer it if they don't want to carry out with it, carry through with it. So, things that are maybe little in the whole scheme of things, really ended up being big things. So like just like.
Yeah.
In school, like, can you fill my water bottle for me?
Yeah.
Such a small thing, like I said, in the scheme of things, but at that moment, it just really was.
And that's a great lesson for all of us all the time anyway.
Yeah.
Even if someone isn't going through a cancer journey or something hard, I just think it's not the big gestures in life. It's not like that once a year, a big vacation. It's the little things. Like, can I get you a glass of water, or can I? It's those little things that build up, that build relationships.
And I do remember my girl, when they thought about it, they would though take turns and say, "Do you need anything before we go to bed, or do you need anything right now?" And so
yeah, so you were teaching them empathy as well, which is it's a great personality trait to have.
But yeah, I would say, be willing to accept help. People are wanting to help. And I can't speak for, my entire family, but I know I myself was extremely touched, a little overwhelmed by all the kindness that poured in. I also think it's important to be as normal as possible.
Sure.
As best as you can. And I do think it's also important to be positive, but be realistic.
Yes.
But be positive.
Right.
The reality is you are very sick.
Yes.
But there is an end to it.
Acknowledge it. You don't want to be like the new buzzword, toxic positivity. Like, certainly acknowledge it and deal with it, but put it in context and remember, what we think becomes reality too. Like, you really have to have control over. And a lot of people use meditation, prayer. Did you do any meditation or prayer or anything like that?
I'm definitely prayed. A lot.
Yeah. I think it's an important part for sure.
And I do think, there are so many things that happen in people's lives, and, everyone, each to their own, how they interpret that and internalize it. But to me, I internalize, being a person of faith, all right, what do I need to do to be closer to God? This is not done to me. It's, life happens. Things happen. It's not exactly,
I know. And my personal belief is that God allows these things to happen to bring you to Him.
Yeah. And it's a choice.
Right.
It's a choice of being, I think it's a choice of that anger, letting it either consumes you and makes you focus on your own selfishness and self-centeredness. And it puts you into a path that doesn't allow you to be closer to God, or to, to be the person you want to be, I guess.
Right.
Versus, all right, so here's this, obstacle. How do I get through this? How do I get over it? How do I get under it? How do I get around it? It's that kind of thinking. And I will say, there were moments where I had to just take some deep breaths, because just the smell of some of the medicines and just the smell of rubbing alcohol actually would just put me into a mental state of like,
Yes.
oh, this is what I have to go through.
Like, is this my life right now?
And it's lonely. It's
Yeah.
very
Oh,
isolating.
sure.
But I felt like I had to choose not to be isolated.
Right.
And that, just in your faith, that you don't walk that path alone. You don't always, like, it's more of a feeling of a presence, maybe.
Right.
Rather than a seeing of a physical
Absolutely. It's
proof.
it's almost like a peace,
Mm-hmm.
that you have with faith rather than those lower vibrational feelings of like anger and resentment. I just think peace raises your vibration and allows you to be in a higher state to be able to deal with things a little bit better. But that was a great way to explain it. So, moving on from your treatment, you go in, you get a clean bill of health, I'm assuming, and party hardy. What is your maintenance, or how much do you have to think about this now moving forward?
For right now, and I don't know how long this procedure or this protocol, I should say, is in place, but for right now, it's basically a check every 6 months. So,
Okay.
at one point, it's an MRI, and then 6 months later, it's a mammogram. So
Okay. That's not
it's a
too
yearly
bad.
MRI and a yearly mammogram.
Okay.
Because I responded so well.
Great.
And they
That's
said I was
great.
cured.
Yeah.
Then it's
Don't you love that word?
Yeah, it's just it's just the maintenance and checking.
How long have you been cured? Like,
So I say it's my surgery date because that's when I feel like everything that was taken out.
Right.
So I've talked to another woman who was diagnosed very young, and she says, I said, I used my surgery date. I don't know, what you're supposed to do. And she said, I used my surgery date too.
Aww.
That's how I
that's
count,
how you gauge it,
I guess.
So
Yeah.
how long has that been?
So it was 2 years.
Oh, wow.
In March.
So you're officially 2 years cancer free, you can
Yes.
say. Yay.
Yeah.
All right. That's awesome. Okay. I'm so happy for you. Let's change gears here because I think I just think you have a really cool story outside of the whole cancer journey. Talk a little bit about your early years in your life and when you were adopted and how, because I think I love a good adoption story too.
Well, I am adopted, so I was not born in the United States. I was actually born in South Korea. So this was in the 70s, and I think we look at South Korea now as it is now, and it's very advanced, very technical. Just like the United States, your urban areas are so forward and competitive with the rest of the world, but you still have very rural parts they're not disconnected, but they are not as connected. So my experience of South Korea was when it was still we would categorize it as a third world country.
Oh,
so
wow.
They were extremely poor, not very well. Your entire population at that point was not very well educated. So I'm always grateful, and I feel very blessed and fortunate that, the circumstances that allowed me to be in the United States allow me to be in the United States. So my parents could not have children. So my story is when I was born, I don't remember because I was so young, but I do know that my biological mother passed away when I was young, and I believe I was about 4 years old. And I do have a full sister, And in that knowledge that she was going to pass away, my sister and I were split up, and I went to my dad, and my younger sister went to my grandparents. And so when I went to my dad's, he had, I don't know if it was his girlfriend or a wife, but he had another woman in his life, and they had a son together. So I don't have very fond memories of her.
Oh,
and
gosh.
she was pretty mean and cruel.
Cinderella story. Oh, no.
In my memory. And so, unfortunately, while living with my father, he had passed away. He was in a motorcycle accident. So,
oh my gosh.
in Asian culture, you keep the boy because boys will grow up and take care of their parents. So, and plus, I was not her child, and
right.
she didn't really want me. So, so I ended up in an orphanage, and my parents here in the United States. My sister is also adopted, and I guess they had a discussion and said, we would like to adopt another child. So my birthday is my parents' anniversary.
Oh, really?
Which I always, and I said, well, I guess we're just meant to be together then. So my dad said we would like to, let's adopt an older child to give that child a chance, because really once you're past toddler,
I know that's a sad
difficult.
part of the adoption process.
So I was 7, which is unheard of, really.
I was gonna say that is old to be adopted, unfortunately.
It's very old. And
do you have memories of the orphanage?
Mm-hmm.
What was that like? I've been friends with you for so long, and I've never asked you that.
It was a lot of kids.
Oh my gosh.
It was
like, where did you sleep?
I think I just slept on the floor with all the other we were separated, boys and girls.
Mm-hmm.
But during the day, of course, you all, worked together.
Wow.
So
did you go to school?
I did not.
So they just kept you in the orphanage, like, all day?
Pretty much.
And they were just like, okay, go play with each other. Like, just, do whatever.
I mean, it wasn't, I don't think the adults were terrible,
Mm-hmm.
I don't really remember the adults. I don't remember the orphanage fondly. Like, it was,
right.
It wasn't a fun experience, I guess.
So you're in the orphanage from like age 4 to 7?
No, because I lived with my dad till 7. And then I called her my stepmother, took me to the orphanage.
Oh, so how long were you actually in the orphanage?
I'm not quite sure, but I was there longer than I should have, because when I was going through the process, and my parents were gonna take me, the orphanage said, this child has a younger sister. Would you be willing to take her also? And my parents said, yeah, we'll take the younger sister also. So they spent, I think, 6 months searching for her.
Oh, my gosh.
And couldn't find her. So after 6 months, they said, we need to move on with the process.
So she went to your grandparents, but you don't know where she went after that. So obviously you don't think she lived with your grandparents?
I don't know.
Like forever? You still don't know till this day?
I have no idea. Yeah.
Wow.
Once we were separated, I don't ever remember seeing her again. And she was like a baby. I remember her being like a toddler, maybe. But yeah, so like
well, now with all the Ancestry.coms and everything, I'm sure if you really wanted to, you could maybe. I mean,
well, I did do that as a, like just to see, and it's like playing the lottery, maybe some things will happen, and nothing has come up yet.
No. So how different do you think your life would have been had you not been adopted? Like, did you ever sit in your private moments and think, I wonder what would have happened to me?
Yeah.
Like,
I honestly think I probably would be dead.
Do you really?
Yeah, like I don't know how I would have survived into teenage years and into adulthood in an orphanage.
Oh.
And
Now I'm thinking about all those orphaned kids over there. Like, oh God.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. But
without really going to school and having the opportunity to make a choice in what you want to do.
Right. I mean, I used to say this to my girls all the time when they were little, and they have a funny story about this actually. But how blessed are we really to be able, especially as girls, to make that choice as to what you want to do with your life? Mm-hmm. But I can't believe. So they're in the orphanage, they're not getting any schooling, and then they become adults. It's like, what happens to them? Oh,
I don't think good things.
No,
really.
That's heartbreaking.
And
wow,
unfortunately, I really do think, I don't know, I think about that, I had a thought in my 30s at one point that I thought, pretty sure I've outlived both of my biological parents.
Yeah, right.
So I know one was a motorcycle accident that you can't really, and
who knows what your biological mother had. Exactly. I mean, it could have been, that brings us back to breast cancer when you were talking. And I wondered, are you going to advise your 3 daughters to ever get tested for the gene, or?
So I was advised myself to be genetically tested for breast cancer, because being adopted, I don't have family medical history that's genetic based. So I did get that, and there's nothing. There's nothing there. So
well, that's good.
Which obviously means you can't, not get cancer.
Sure.
I did. So their advice is, if a mother has breast cancer, so I guess the typical age to start mammograms is 40.
Okay.
And they say, like, whatever age your mother had breast cancer, you should start your mammograms 10 years before that. So
good to know.
They'll start theirs in their 30s.
Good to know.
Just because now they have family history.
So if anyone's listening, to wrap this up, you said so many important things, but the few things that stuck out to me is, and we didn't talk about this, and I'm guilty for not doing this, but I'm gonna advise it anyway. We really should be doing the self breast exams. We really should. I have a family member that found a lump that way. We definitely should be getting the mammograms. Definitely not skipping our appointments, Joanne.
Yes.
Because let's point out, you were fine for years before that, and all you did was miss it by like 6 months.
Yeah.
And
I think about that too. Like, I think about, like, I am such a lucky person. Like, I am such a fortunate and blessed person, because I honestly think that if I had gotten the mammogram when I was supposed to, I don't know that would have shown.
I was thinking the same thing. When I was saying that coming out of my mouth, I'm like, well, wait.
And because because out of my stubbornness, I was like, just wait till next time. I'll wait for my next physical where they say, you should get your mammogram. And so that's what I was going to do.
Yeah.
But because I saw that reminder letter and I was right next to the phone, because I still have a home phone, I was like, okay. I feel like, things are aligning and telling me make that call. So when I made that call, and I think, in my opinion, it would have been too late if I would have waited to the next time I was due.
It may have been.
I think it was just like everything else in my life. I just feel like such fortunate circumstances have led me to these spots. And
I love how you say instinct, because you had said that when you looked at the film, like you're not a medical expert, but you had instinct.
Yeah.
And I think way too often we as women, because we live in such a structured, robotic society and world now, that we are just taught to ignore that instinct in every scenario possible. You're standing next to a stranger, things don't feel right. That's your instinct. Listen to it.
Yeah.
With your health, women get instinctual feelings all the time. Follow through. If you feel like, I don't know, I see this letter sitting here, I'm feeling like I should make a call, do it. Don't second guess. Just listen to your instincts. I call it my God voice, but yeah, for sure.
Well, I mean, like, what else would it be? Like,
I'm so happy that you are cancer free.
thank you, me too.
And you look like amazing. You look amazing. Your hair's so nice and shiny. And I love your husband and your daughters, and I'm glad that you guys could get back into the throes of all things. Let's see. We got basketball, softball, track. Anything else I'm missing there? Did we throw anything new into the mix?
Well, Chloe and Jillian play tennis, but
Oh, we threw tennis in there. Okay. But now the most I saved the saved the most important question for last. You're going to laugh. So the real question is, how much do you miss my big mouth at the basketball games?
I do look at that.
Yelling, what's my famous line?
Blow the whistle.
And one of my biggest regrets in life is that I didn't get you and me and Jen, our other mom, in the mix. I know. I got so busy Sophia's senior year. I so wanted to get t-shirts that said blow the whistle. Listen, I've only gotten thrown out of one basketball game, and it was not because of me, I might add, or my mouth. So I think I knew right when to yell and when not to yell. And I was never directly yelling at the referees either. We got to say that, because God bless them. I wouldn't want that job either. They have a tough position out there. But blow the whistle was. And I remember, and I want to tell everybody this too. When I was trying to think of a name for this podcast, I was like, "Oh my gosh!" You were the first one I texted. I'm like, "I want to call it Blow the Whistle." The only reason I didn't is because of all of the other sports references to it. But that would have been so funny.
Funny, absolutely.
But anyway, thank you for doing this.
Well, thanks for having me.
I think women just need each other, and I think we should be there for each other. And like that overused meme always says, be the woman that straightens the other woman's crown.
Yes.
Overused, but true.
True.
But thank you. Yeah.